something. We'll now get your conversation from the sidelines of BofA Securities India Conference 2024. My colleague Nigel spoke with Kaku, Nakhate, the president of India country-headed Bank of America, from the sidelines of their India Conference 2024 to discuss their strategy for India.
India is very well placed to become the third largest economy in the world. I think elections was an event where many of the people were really focused upon. As you saw, that the FI flows in the start of the year to now has, actually been outflows.
Yes.
Because money has gone back to probably lower valued markets because our valuations are at historic high.
Yes.
Having said that, I think with the event of elections getting complete very soon, and if we were to believe the exit poll, which I do, I think we will have continuity of the government. There aren't many countries across the world, and the geopolitics, and also being in our favor that the growth of the Indian economy can be relentless. And I strongly believe that this century is for India. So with that, I would say I do expect FPI flows to come back to India. FDI flows also, I think in the next 5 years will be much, much faster. If I were to give you statistics that the last 10 years, actually FDI flows actually went up to 596 billion, which is double of the previous decade. I feel that in the next 5 years, we'll have 500 billion.
All right.
And so that's why I'm very bullish, both on FDI, FI, and of course the domestic flows continue with SIPs totaling 2.4 billion in just April itself.
Indeed, and the Indian investor has matured over the years with those SIPs. Just a few years ago it was barely 3,000 crores, or now it's at around 20,000 crores, more than $2.5 billion, which is phenomenal. But the brief point you made on FI or the FPI flows, FDI, yes, we're expecting a big bazooka on those flows, but the FI flows, they've been net sellers year to date, I think roughly around 2.5 to 3 billion approximately. In 2014, 2019, they were actually net buyers getting into the event. Do you expect that to turn around? And do you think that the FIs are waiting on the sidelines, waiting for this election verdict? And that's why, particularly in the last 45 days or so, they were selling out a little bit more in the Indian markets.
So, I would say that India outflows is not alone. It's emerging market outflows. And, if you go back to the history, as and when Fed has increased their rates, emerging markets have seen outflows. So, also the profits that most of the funds have got in India has been multifold, with our valuations being high at 23x. So in the last few months, as we discussed, funds have gone back within emerging markets to China.
Yes.
Even though our MSCI weightage is at 18
Indeed.
Versus what it used to be at 8% in 2020. To your point, I firmly believe that, people did not know, because if you see, if Prime Minister Modi comes back, he will be the only Prime Minister like Jawaharlal Nehru who will come back for the third year in a term. And, there were a lot of ifs and buts in FPI minds, and there was some profit booking as a result, because A, they looked good, since they were seeing outflows, then you book profits where you're making money.
Yes.
And second, you're well placed in case anything happened, post any event. So I do feel that flows will come back. It may come back with the results, but we also have to do a bit and continue with reforms in line with what we have been doing. Because one thing I wanted to tell you, Nigel, while everything looks good, actually, post-COVID, if you really look at it, you saw an increase in revenue. Then the next year, if you see, in the fiscal, you saw increase in revenue, but actually margin expansion that took place because of deleveraging of balance sheets. And now if you see the last 2-3 quarters, actually expenses have gone up and margins are slightly squeezed, while revenues are continuing robust. So this is an anomaly with new reforms, with new growth, we should be able to tackle, and that will bring back a super growth.
Well, that's an interesting point you made with regard to the domestic flows. because the domestic money believe that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will come back for the third term. The FI is a little bit skeptical. They're shorting the index futures. They were selling in the cash market as well. And that could turn around, and that's what could take the markets higher, even from these valuations of 21, 22 times odd. But let's focus on, the point that you were making on valuations. There are some of these MNCs that are listed here in India. And the valuations that they're getting here is at a premium actually in comparison to their so-called home country. And they have been taking some money off the table. How do you see that pan out? I understand that there could be a few more large deals that could happen on those lines itself. That is, the parent taking some money off the listed company here in India. Your take?
I fully agree with you, Nigel. It also gives me big pride, because every time, many years back, when I used to be on road shows, meeting corporates, they used to always tell me that, we are keeping on investing in India. When will I get the results?
Yeah.
Now, if you really see, the subsidiaries in India are at much higher valuations, and there are more buyouts possible going forward. There are more, people wanting to really sell stakes that are possible. You saw Bat and Timken, for example.
Indeed.
Many more coming in. But I also see a trend that big companies, like we have heard the plans in the market, like Hyundai going public. So there are a lot of people who are looking at subsidiaries to enhance their parent valuations by monetizing their stake. The stake could be to take back money home, but it's also, many of them are looking to raise stake to push that money back into India for bigger growth opportunities.
Well, that was a very interesting conversation, but let's now slip into a short break. On the other side, we'll speak to Harshvardhan Dole from IIFL to discuss the recent trends from the power as well as the oil and gas sector.